And welcome in, everybody, to the Chicago Sports Mayhem Talk Show. I am your host, Andrew Mighty Man Scheid. And you know what? It is great to be back with you guys this week. A lot has happened. I hope everyone has had a really good 4th and just really had a good time with each other. Spend some time with your families, your friends, whatever the case may be, because, you don't know how long those people are going to be around, right? So spend time with them, and I hope everyone, like I said, had a great 4th. I had a busy week myself this past week, a lot going on. Didn't get a lot of time to prep for today's show, but I did actually get a lot done because I got here to campus early. And for those that don't know what campus means, it's Illinois Media School, O'Hare campus here. Very nice that they, I'm able to use this equipment here to bring you guys this great show and just have a great time. What is on tap for tonight? Well, last week we talked a lot about the Chicago White Sox, and they're in first place. Can they maintain it? And so far they have. They have not dropped out of first place. Have they tied for first place in that respect? Yes. They have tied for first place, but they are still sitting atop the AL Central as it stands, right now. So, that's still a good thing. But today's episode is all about their north side counterparts, right? That is the Chicago Cubs. And I have to just say it. They've been doing a lot better as of late. Now, does that mean that they are back? I don't know. I seriously don't know. And I've looked at this Cubs team as a middle of the pack kind of team, right? You're like, okay, what is this team going to do going forward, right? They're showing signs of life. That's a good way to put it. They're showing signs of life at last. That 10-game losing streak, it really got to a lot of Cubs fans. It got to a lot of sports pundits throughout the Chicagoland area. It got to me, too, because I was like, this is one of the teams that is favored to be atop the NL Central at the end of the year. And, we're almost halfway through the season. These teams have played over 90 games at this point. And, this Cubs team has not shown me dominance over the NL Central yet, but in that respect, neither have the Sox either. So, they are showing signs of life. Yes, they lost today as I'm recording this on July 9th. They did lose to the Orioles, but they're playing better baseball and more exciting baseball. I think for a while there, they were just kind of going through the motions, and I think I said that at one point. This team isn't really fired up about anything, and I think that's a big thing. I think, a big thing is a team has to be fired up. And this Cubs team, in my respect, has not been truly fired up. And what I mean by truly fired up is you are not letting past games get to you. You are going out there giving 110% every game and just playing downright good baseball. I think that's something we've seen from the Southsiders is hard, tough playing baseball. We've seen as of late some hard, tough playing baseball from the Chicago Cubs. But are we going to continue to see this, right? And one thing I think I would like to see, Craig Counsell, can you get a little more animated in the dugout? I know I don't have a clip of it today, but Dansby Swanson has made some miraculous plays as of late. And every time I see you in the dugout after a miraculous play that Dansby, this team, Suzuki, someone has made, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, he got it. But you're not getting fired up about that play when your whole dugout is about to lose their smurf and you're just standing there like this, like, okay. That shows me something that you're not a fiery type of manager, and Chicago likes fiery managers. They like managers that will get in an umpire's face, that'll scream. That is I think that is one thing that Southsiders loved about Ozzie as a manager, right? Because he would get fired up. He would yell at umpires. He would get pissed because that was the player coming out in him. Uh, yeah, but they're showing signs of life, but, that's the thing. Is it sustainable? Are we going to see them, fall off a cliff the second half of the season, right? And I don't think we are. I think this team has been given way less credit than they are due at points. This is a Sox fan talking here. But yeah, this team, I'm not saying can coast through the second half because you can't. You cannot coast through the second half. Okay? Now, something I want to show you guys is I have a little graphic put together here. And I want to show you guys something. Now, here's where the Cubs stand right now. Okay, they have a 51-40 record. They're in second place in the AL Central. They're 6.5 games out of first. Can they still win the division? Yes, they can. But here is the big part of that. You have teams in the NL Central that are just downright good, like the Milwaukee Brewers, the St. Louis Cardinals. These teams, they're not going to go away. They're not just going to step aside and let you take the Central. You are going to have to work for it. And I think that's one of the biggest things is, it's going to take some work in the second half of the season. I think the NL Central is going to become, in this second half of the season, one of those tighter divisions like we see the AL Central now with Cleveland and the Sox. But I digress with all that. I believe this team is going to be fine. There are some players like Kevin Alcantara that are good, that are going to be mainstays in this team eventually, right? But, I think the Cubs do not need to be sellers at the deadline. I think that is one thing that is crucial here. The Cubs sellers at the deadline, I don't think so. Why? Because they still have a shot. You have a 51-40 record. You are 9 games above 500. You are doing all right. No, take that back. You're 11 games above 500. Sorry. So they're doing things right. They kind of gotten out of that slump. I don't feel that they're going to fall off a cliff. Now, if something happens to them where that's gonna happen, it's going to happen. But right now, one thing I think with the Cubs at the trade deadline have to look at pitching, right? You have to look at pitching. That trade deadline's less than a month away. I think one thing the Cubs have to look at is I think they're going to be buyers, but I think they got to look at pitching. And it's not saying that your pitching that's on the IL is not going to come back healthy and it's not going to come back and do a good job for you. But right now, in this moment in time, the Cubs need to find themselves some pitching, right? It's just to shore up some awful, awful, awful luck this team has had to start this season. And, give props to this team. They've been playing fine with all those problems being said. Now, like I said before, they cannot just coast through the second half of the season. They're going to have to work hard. They're going to have to say, buckle down and let's go, right? And hopefully you get some of this pitching back in the second half of the season. I think that's just going to be another big thing as well. Now, with me saying all this and everything going on, that graphic said, I believe they can win the division. Now, can they win? How would they fare in the playoffs? Let's digest this. If the North Side was to make the playoffs, there are going to be a lot of good National League teams in that playoff race. I think even if you win the division, I still think Milwaukee is one of the top teams to, if they don't win a division, to say they're going to end up with one of those wild card spots. And Milwaukee is just grandeur. Remember, Milwaukee has owned this division for the past 3 years, and they're not going to give it up easy. So I think that's one thing the Cubs got to watch. They got to look at pitching at the trade deadline and just hope that some of their hurt pitching comes back healthy in the second half of the season. I do not think that they need to touch the bats at all. I think you have bats that can produce. If I were to nitpick and say one thing about this Cubs team that I would say offensively you need to try and go get, a legit power bat. And I've said this on so many different shows. I said a legit power bat. The Cubs do not have that. Do the Cubs have someone like an Aaron Judge where the Yankees know if when he comes to the plate, there's a chance he's gonna send one out, and he's a big guy. The Cubs don't have that big guy. They don't have a true home run hitter. They have guys that can hit home runs and can hit quite a few of them, but they don't have a big home run guy. And, some people have said, well, Suzuki. And I said, well, Suzuki can hit for power, but he's not a power bat. He's not a power bat. And, some people say PCA. PCA was not signed for his bat, people. PCA was signed for his legs. And he knows that. He knows that wholeheartedly well. But there's so many things that this Cubs team needs to address in this second half of the season, and it's not so much that they're bad things, but they're things that just need to get addressed, right? And I think finding pitching at the trade deadline that can shore up that bullpen and that starting rotation, and also finding a true power bat if you can, would be just an amazing thing, right, for the Cubs organization. And I think they can make a deep run in the playoffs, but they're going to run into some very, very deep teams like the Brewers, the Yankees. I mean, once you hit the playoffs, you're going to be facing everybody and their mother, right? You're going to be if you make it to the World Series, you're going to be facing an American League team, but the National League has so many good teams that the Cubs are going to have their work cut out for them this second half of the season. They are not out of the woods. Can they compete? Yes. But like I said, pitching and a power bat are the two key things I am seeing currently for this Cubs team. Now, with all that being said, I think they're going to be okay. Now, if they do make the playoffs, maybe they'll catch a second wind and go nuts in the playoffs. I don't know. But I can't confidently sit here with you today looking at this camera and say, yes, the Cubs are going to make a deep run in the playoffs, because I don't know. I don't know two Smurfs about what's going on the north side, right? I can only comment on what I see in the day-to-day, right? Anyway, that's my take on the team as a whole, right? But hey, there are some players in this Cubs organization that, people are like, they're expecting them to produce. And to me, there's a few of those guys that have produced, but also have not produced. And, it's just one of those things, when we return, that we're just, these guys, they need to produce if this Cubs team is going to go forward. And right now they're not producing, but when we return, we will talk about that. And welcome back, everybody. I apologize. There should have been commercial played, and I don't know what happened. It didn't play, so you just got a minute of silence, and I truly apologize, and I feel bad about that. But before we went to break, or what was supposed to be a break, I kind of said there was some people in this Cubs organization that aren't really helping out or helping out as much as they should be. And what do I mean? Who do I mean when I say that, right? Um well, one of them is a guy we've been talking about a lot, and that is Alex Bregman. Bregman, he just, and he's one of those guys. Historically, you want to say, oh, he historically has a slow first half of the season, but I've been saying since the season started that he can't afford to have a slow half. Luckily, there's been guys picking up his slack, but when we look at Bregman's numbers through 2026 so far, he's got a 243 batting average as it stands right now. He's only got 7 home runs, 34 RBIs, and an on-base slugging at 689. So, to me, that's not playoff caliber Alex Bregman. And here's the big thing with Bregman, and I say this with all love in the world, is he going to explode in the second half, or will he just continue the way he's been going, right? Is he going to have a super big second half? Is he going to explode out of the shell? Or is he just going to stay kind of where he's at, right? I want to say he's going to just balloon after the All-Star break, but I don't know. But, and that's kind of the crazy thing, right? I have no idea what is going on with Alex Bregman right now. And I just think that he needs to pick it up. He needs to start batting better. I would like to see Alex Bregman batting over 300. It doesn't mean he has to be hitting bomb after bomb after bomb, but we know what Alex Bregman can do. And to me, in this first half of this Cubs season, his first year with the Cubs, he hasn't shown me much of what they signed him for. Because let's not forget, this is a 5-year deal, so he's going to be here on the north side for the foreseeable future. And the Cubs put a lot of that money on him to say, yeah, we believe in you enough for the next 5 years that we believe. And that's the thing. Bregman came to this team thinking this is a team he could win a World Series with, right? But is he really putting forward that effort yet? In my opinion, no. His numbers aren't showing that yet. Now, like I said, Bregman is known for having a very, very, very slow first half. But we'll have to see again what he can do after the All-Star break. And I mean, yeah, just go for that. But he's going to be one of those big key things of like you're looking at this and going, is he going to contribute in the second half a little more? Is he going to stay the same? I don't know. I want to say he's going to break out, but I just don't know. And I'm not saying he's not a good ball player, because Bregman is one of the best in this league. But why? Why everywhere he goes, he has a notorious slow start to the season? I will never understand, and I've been trying to for years, everyone, and it's giving me a headache. Anyway, I digress. There are other people, Bregman, he's not the only one, right? He's not the only one I'm looking at and going, oh, he's the only reason the Cubs have been doing, as what they've been doing. Um, but I can't look at it and go, where is he going to be at the end of the season? I don't know. Now, another player that has been producing but not producing is 2026 Cubs All-Star PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong. Is he what the Cubs want going past 2026? And what I mean by that is he the guy that the Cubs are going to build around? Because he could be. When you look at who's set to be here for a long haul right now, and that is Bregman and PCA, are the two kind of pillars I look at in this Cubs organization that are going to be around a while. And I said it at the beginning of this show. I think that he has contributed, right? But he hasn't contributed fully to what he can do. And some people, and I think I said this at the first half of the show, people might say, well, he needs to hit more home runs. He is not a home run hitter. And the Cubs know he is not a power bat. They did not sign him for his bat. They signed him for his legs. And yes, when we look at his numbers, and let's take a look at his numbers, right? He's got a batting average of 296. Not bad. Again, this Cubs team, I would like to see a bunch of these guys batting over 300. When you see the past few seasons that this organization has had. But he's batting 296 with 21 home runs, 52 runs batted in. And the big one for him, I think, that, is kind of tantamount to PCA is the stolen bases. He's got 23 stolen bases on the year so far, which means he's on pace to have a little over 50 by the end of the year. Now, I do not think he's going to hit that number, just because some of these nowadays, a lot of these catchers have rifle arms behind the plate. But when I say this, PCA has done a good job at knowing which catchers have the weaker arms. So he knows who he can steal on and who he can't steal on. And I think that's a big thing for PCA. 21 home runs, he's got I think he's one of their home run leaders, but he's not looked at as a power bat. He's looked at for more of his leg speed, the 52 RBIs. I mean, these are not bad numbers, and I'm not trying to dump on PCA. I just think that on a day-to-day, looking at him, he's not contributing the same day-to-day. He's not being consistent, even though he's batting 296 with 21 home runs. I just don't think the play at the plate is consistent for PCA as it stands right now. Now, again, this could totally change. I mean, he's their all-star. He's going to the all-star game in Philadelphia. Best of luck to him. And I don't not know how much playing time he's going to get, but, best of luck to him. But he's one of those guys who has to contribute in this second half of the season if the Cubs are going to have a chance at, making a deep run in this 2026 season. Now, do I believe that PCA is the future of this organization in that center field position? Yes. Oh, wholeheartedly, yes, I do, because they're not going to look at him. And, here's the thing. I think one reason the Cubs signed PCA is they didn't want him getting away. They didn't want his contract expiring and someone like the Los Angeles Dodgers go up and snag him, and yeah, the Dodgers just have another speed weapon. Like they really need that. But I digress. I could do a whole episode on how I feel about the Dodgers. I mean, they may have players I like Mookie Betts. Love the guy, love him to death. I've loved him for years. Loved him since he was in Boston. So I love the guy. But someone needs to show LA the door this postseason and say bye-bye. Time for someone else to hold that trophy. Come on. But I digress. Calm down now. All right. But, who's one more player that I think the Cubs are going to need to not necessarily lean on, but need a little more production from going forward? For me, that is Seiya Suzuki. Now, Suzuki has shown this Cubs franchise time and time again what he can do, not only at the plate, but defensively as well. I think that's a big thing is with a lot of these guys is they're good at the plate, but they're also good defensively, right? And Suzuki's one of those who's really good defensively. He had some time on the injured list this year. He's working through that, and he's doing better. He's got good numbers, right? But he's one of those guys that, can he keep it up? Are we going to see all of this in the second half? Is he going to hit a rut? How are things going to go, right? And it's just simple stuff like that. But when we look at Suzuki's numbers, everyone, and I say, well, can he keep it going? Because he's not doing half bad at the moment, right? And neither is PCA. And I said that. It's not like he's doing horrible. He's just someone you would like to see a little more production out of, right? So we look at Suzuki's numbers for 2026. He's got a 260 batting average, 14 home runs, 45 RBIs, and on-base percentage at 342 with 44 runs scored. And I think that's a big thing to look at, right? He's not, their biggest guy out there, but a 260 batting average, 14 home runs, 45 runs batted in. 45 runs batted in the first half of the season, and we still got, one or two series to go here. So he's going to be one of those key contributors, I believe, moving forward with this Cubs franchise. I do think he's one of those guys that the Cubs are going to look at to stay here on the north side. They're going to try to extend his contract the same way they did PCA. There's just certain guys I feel like this Cubs team is going to want to keep locked down, and I think Suzuki, Bregman, PCA, and Suzuki are those top three guys that I believe they're going to want to keep nailed down, right? Because I think these three are going to be your three big contributors in a lineup or defensive formation going forward. Now, Suzuki's kind of been doing his job, right? And like I said, he started the season injured, but he has worked through all that, which is, it's a good thing, right? It is a really good thing that he has worked through these injuries and was able to come back with a bang. He came back with a bang, and he just has this energy with this Cubs club that he just radiates. I mean, and the players, the coaching staff, the front office, they love this guy. He radiates so much energy. He loves to be here on the north side, and I think this is where he's going to be for the foreseeable future. I think this Cubs team can make a deep run in the playoffs, but it's going to remain to be seen, can they keep some of this good play that we've seen in the past couple series? Dansby going nuts, these past couple series. He's finally coming out of it. There's so many players, and I could have put together 10 to 20 graphics tonight on how good this team has done lately. I mean, they've been on fire. So, it's been a while since we could say, yeah, there's good play on both sides of Chicago right now. And it's been a while since we've been able to say that. But I think things are going to move forward for the Cubs. Now, before I go, I have some breaking news right before I went live today. Munetaka Murakami will be back with the White Sox tomorrow, Friday, July 10th, against the Athletics. That's right, Mooney is back, ladies and gentlemen. Back so much as was not in the lineup for the Charlotte Knights tonight. So he has already been sent back to Chicago to get ready for tomorrow's game. He is back, ladies and gentlemen. This is what White Sox fans have been waiting for, and I'm so excited because I'm going to the game on Saturday. I cannot wait to see this guy play in person. It's going to be awesome. They got the Alumni Home Run Derby after the game Saturday, so that's going to be cool to see some of the guys I grew up in my childhood. Gordon Beckham, Scotty Pods, Alexei Ramirez, those guys I grew up with. And it's just going to be fun to see those guys smacking baseballs at the plate at the rate once again. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, but I want to thank everybody for joining me for today's episode of Chicago Sports Mayhem, or this week's episode of Chicago Sports Mayhem. I've been your host, Andrew Mighty Man Scheid. And you know what? Ending today with a little wisdom, right? I always like to give you my little tidbit of wisdom at the end of every episode. If there's any advice I could give people out there, keep pushing forward. Life may throw a ton of things at you. And I'm a big example of that. And for those of you that don't know, I have spastic cerebral palsy, which is a leg muscle disability. Thankfully, it is very mild and I'm still able to walk. Most people with my disability are wheelchair bound, so it's very I'm very grateful to still have the use of my legs and be able to walk. I suffer from anxiety and depression and a little bit of PTSD from a dog bite earlier in my life, but I don't let anything like that stop me. If anything, I use it to drive me forward. One of the things with this industry, guys, is I'm always afraid of two things. One, and Jason Benetti, who is the play-by-play guy for the Detroit Tigers, former play-by-play guy for the Chicago White Sox, has the same disability as me, and I agree with him. I've never put it like this, but I have felt like this, where I'm scared of two things. One, getting a job, because of how I look, right? Or not getting a job because of how I look or how I walk, and he said the same thing. I think, that scares a lot of people with disabilities. Are you not getting hired because of that disability, or are you getting hired because of that disability? So, just my advice, be grateful for what you have. I mean, I am, and don't let anything stop you, right? I mean, that's my big message. Persevere, right? And we've all said that, and I could ramble on forever about this, but I've had so many obstacles thrown at me in life, and I still was able to be a varsity athlete in a sport in high school. I was still able to play two sports in high school. Yeah, I only made varsity for one of them, but that's okay. I was still able to take gym classes in high school. I never, let anything stand in my way. I played football as a kid, played soccer, I played basketball, all this organized sports. I never let any of that get in my way. I never let anyone tell me my disability is why you can't do anything. I think that's a big thing too, but never let anything stand in your way. And if someone is standing in your way, if someone's being in that roadblock, get them out of your life. They don't belong in your life. If they're standing in your way, say bye-bye, don't need you anymore. But, that's all I have to say for you this week. Good luck to the White Sox and Cubs this weekend. This week, I will see you guys next week, next Thursday, for Chicago Sports Mayhem. Do not know what we will be talking about yet, but that will be a surprise. See you guys next week.